You rise with certainty. You rise with wisdom. You rise with a light in your heart that doesn't dim when others leave. And that light is powerful because it isn't borrowed from others. It's kindled by your Lord. It's sustained by prayer. It's fueled by remembrance. And it guides you even when the path is unclear, even when the future feels uncertain. That light carries you. Because when you've learned to stand alone with God, you've learned to walk through anything with confidence. You've learned that your back is never truly bare when the one who holds the heavens and the earth is guarding it. So while the world may chase constant connection, constant company, and constant noise, the one who knows the power of solitude walks a different path. They walk quietly but firmly. They walk gently but with conviction. They walk alone, but they are never lonely. Because the one who sees, who hears, who knows, and who guides, that one is always with them. When the world begins to dim its lights around you, when conversations grow distant and familiar faces become rare, it's not always a sign of failure. Sometimes it's a sign that you are being set apart for something greater. Solitude is not a void to be feared, but a space to be honored. It's in those quiet, undisturbed moments that the soul whispers, the heart listens, and the voice of your Creator becomes clearer than ever. You don't need a crowd to find yourself. You don't need endless conversations to find peace. What you truly need is the courage to sit in the silence, to walk through the stillness, and to face yourself without flinching. Because in that sacred isolation, your roots deepen, your prayers become stronger, your vision sharpens, the distractions fade, the noise dies down, and suddenly you begin to feel your purpose rise from the depths. This world will try to convince you that being alone means being behind. That solitude is something to escape. But the truth is, the people who rise highest are the ones who dared to grow in silence. The ones who embraced being alone not as emptiness, but as an opportunity to be filled with strength, with clarity, with faith. Being alone teaches you to rely on the one who never disappears. It brings you face to face with the only relationship that truly defines your life, the one with your Lord. And once that connection is built, once that bond is rooted deep within your chest, you walk into the world no longer needing to be carried. You become someone who is anchored in purpose, someone who is unshaken by absence, someone who walks alone with such peace that even angels recognize your path. So don't run from the silence, don't resent the solitude. Let it become your training ground. Let it become your place of renewal. Let it be where your true power is born. Because the one who learns to stand alone with their Lord learns to walk through life with a strength that no trial can bend and no loneliness can break. Chaos that provides light in the middle of darkness. And that companionship is earned when you turn to your Lord in solitude. When you use that time alone not to complain, but to call upon Him. Not to dwell on what's missing, but to focus on who remains. When you stand in prayer alone, you're not really alone. The angels record, the heavens respond, the mercy of your Lord descends. When you cry out to Him in private, your tears are not lost. They are heard, they are counted, they are honored. This is not a fantasy. This is the experience of every sincere soul who has ever poured their heart out in sujud, who has ever sat quietly, seeking forgiveness, seeking mercy, seeking direction. The ones who have walked through life misunderstood by the world, but deeply understood by their Creator. So don't fear being alone. Don't let society make you believe that being alone is a weakness. It is often in those moments of isolation that the greatest strength is born. Because the one who never leaves, never lies, never forgets, and never fails, that one is with you, and His presence is enough. The world often views isolation as a sign of weakness. If someone is seen walking alone, eating alone, or sitting quietly by themselves, assumptions start to form. They must be sad, they must be lost, they must be struggling. But what if that very space, the quiet corner, the moment of stillness, the retreat from chaos, isn't a breakdown but a build-up? What if it's not a moment of weakness but one of immense strength? You see, alone time isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. Because that's the time when foundations are laid, wounds are addressed, and the heart begins to strengthen in ways that crowds could never help you achieve. It's easy to distract yourself when you're surrounded by people. Easy to forget what's really going on inside when there's always another voice, another event, another excuse to look outward. But when you're alone, you come face to face with yourself. You face the emotions you've been avoiding. You hear the doubts you've buried. You recognize the pain that you've decorated with a smile for too long. And it is only in that confrontation that healing can begin. When you sit alone in silence, you begin the real journey toward self-awareness, toward clarity, toward Allah. Because nobody can guide you through your own soul better than the one who created it. Some of the strongest people were built in isolation. The ones who stand firm today were once kneeling alone in prayer, crying with no one watching, rebuilding piece by piece in rooms no one ever entered. Their resilience didn't come from applause. It came from prostration. Their peace didn't come from attention. It came from surrender. In those moments when it felt like they had no one, they found that they always had the one who matters most. And through that connection, their solitude became strength. Being alone also teaches you independence, not from people, but from the need to constantly be validated by others. When you get comfortable in your own company, you no longer feel the urge to compromise yourself just to fit in. You start choosing what benefits your heart over what pleases the crowd. You begin to guard your time, your energy, your peace. You begin to choose wisely who you allow into your space, because you've learned to value your silence. You realize that not every voice deserves access to your ears, and not every presence deserves to sit with your soul in isolation. Your priorities realign. You begin to understand what matters. You begin to distinguish between what you want and what you need. And most importantly, you begin to develop a relationship with Allah that doesn't depend on anyone else. That relationship becomes your anchor, your guide, your strength. You turn inward not because you're lost, but because that's where the map has always been. Inside you, placed there by your Lord, waiting to be noticed. So don't fear the seasons of solitude. They are not there to destroy you. They are there to build you in ways no external support system ever could. They are opportunities to pour into yourself, to grow, to reflect, and to prepare. They are periods where Allah is drawing you closer to Him, stripping away distractions, so you can emerge with clarity, purpose, and peace. There is something incredibly powerful about a person who has learned to stand alone. Not bitter, not broken, but complete, grounded, purposeful. Such a person isn't swayed by opinions. They are not fragile in the face of rejection. They do not crumble when ignored, because their strength does not come from the outside. It was built on the inside. It was built during those nights of reflection, those mornings of prayer, those quiet moments of seeking guidance when no one else was around. That strength comes from the one who never leaves, the one who sees the struggle that nobody else notices. When you learn to stand alone, you stop relying on the presence of others to determine your worth. You stop needing constant affirmation to feel secure. You become content with your own company. You no longer chase crowds or beg to be included, because you understand that your value isn't measured by how many people surround you. It's measured by your relationship with your Creator. When He is with you, nothing else is missing. The world may forget you, but you are known by the Most High. The world may overlook you, but you are seen by the one whose gaze matters most. The people who stand alone are often misunderstood. Others wonder how they keep moving forward without support. But that's because the support system isn't visible. It's internal, it's spiritual. It's built in sujud, in late night du'as, in quiet dhikr, in silent surrender. It's a strength that's not loud. It doesn't boast. It doesn't seek attention. But it is unshakable. And it is enough to carry a person through trials, loss, betrayal, and disappointment. Because their root is firm. Their anchor is deep. Their source is divine. Standing alone teaches you self-respect. It teaches you boundaries. It teaches you how to walk away from what harms your soul, even when it's comfortable. You begin to realize that silence is better than gossip, that solitude is better than forced company, that your peace is too valuable to be compromised by meaningless noise. You begin to enjoy the quiet not as a punishment, but as a protection. You begin to see your alone time as an opportunity to listen, to grow, to plan, to recover. And from that space you rise. There are moments in life when the silence around us feels louder than 1,000 voices. We look around and find no one standing beside us, no one messaging us, no one checking in. In that moment, the heart begins to wonder, why am I alone? But what we often fail to realize is that this state, this quiet, this seclusion is not a punishment, it's not rejection, it's not abandonment. It is, in fact, a divine arrangement. A gift that the Almighty has placed in your path. Because He wants to speak to you directly, without interruption. When everything else is stripped away, when the people fade into the background, when the noise dies down, that's when the Creator begins to draw your attention. He wants you to focus not on what's missing, but on who has always been there. When you're alone, you begin to see things with clarity. Your heart no longer competes with others for attention. You are no longer performing for the world. You are standing in your truth. And that truth is powerful. It's pure. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't seek applause. It only seeks the approval of the one who fashioned you from clay and breathed life into your soul. In that stillness, your tears become your prayers. Your thoughts become reflections. Your quiet becomes a dialogue with your Lord. And He listens. He responds. He uplifts in ways that no crowd ever can. So many people fear being alone because they have equated solitude with loneliness. But they are not the same. Loneliness is an emotional response to a perceived void. Solitude is a spiritual state designed to strengthen your soul. The prophets spent time alone. The righteous chose to step away from society to reconnect. Not because they were antisocial or weak, but because they understood the strength of being alone with their Lord. That is where the heart is recalibrated. That is where wounds begin to close. That is where purpose begins to stir. When the world walks away, sometimes it's because the Almighty wants your undivided attention. When your phone stops ringing, when your name disappears from conversations, when people forget you, perhaps it's not neglect, perhaps it's divine protection. Protection from harm, from distraction, from misguidance. You are not forgotten. You are being preserved. Preserved for something better. Preserved so that you may remember your worth without needing to be reminded by someone else. When the soul is stripped of attention, it begins to long for something deeper. And that longing is a whisper from the heavens, calling you to rise, calling you to reflect, calling you to come home to the one who never leaves. So the next time you find yourself in solitude, do not be afraid. Do not panic, embrace it. Use it. Grow in it. Speak in it. Listen in it. Because that very silence could be the loudest moment of your spiritual life. That stillness might be where your healing starts, where your purpose becomes clear, and where your faith becomes unshakable. We live in a world that never stops talking. Notifications, opinions, music, endless conversations, background noise that never truly rests. It's constant. It's overwhelming. And in that never-ending current of sound, your inner voice gets drowned. The soft whisper of your soul becomes muffled under the volume of everything that demands your attention. But silence, that is where the truth rises. That is where clarity is born. Silence doesn't mean emptiness. Silence means presence. And sometimes the greatest revelations arrive when everything else has quieted down. It is only in silence that you begin to recognize the noise you've allowed to settle in your heart. The pressure of other people's expectations, the fears that come from what others think, the doubts that were planted by voices that didn't understand your journey. All of these things hide beneath the surface of your busy life. But when you become still, when you allow yourself to embrace quiet, those hidden burdens rise to the top. Not to shame you, not to break you, but so that you can see them, confront them, and release them. The silence isn't there to punish you. It's there to reveal you to yourself, to show you what you've been suppressing, what you've been ignoring, the questions that have gone unanswered, the emotions that have gone unprocessed, the hopes you've buried under the pressure to survive. All of it begins to speak when the world stops speaking. And more importantly, in that silence, you begin to hear the voice of your Creator more clearly. Not as a loud sound, not as a dramatic event, but as a calm reminder within your chest that He is near. He sees, He knows. When you sit alone, without the distractions, you begin to hear things that truly matter. You begin to reconnect with your purpose, your direction. The world tells you what success looks like. The world gives you an identity to wear. But when you strip away that noise, you ask yourself, who am I really? What do I believe? What do I want from this life? And most importantly, what does my Lord want from me? These are questions that don't get answered in conversations. They get answered in silence. They get answered when you allow yourself to be real, unfiltered, honest. That silence is sacred. It's not empty space. It's filled with the potential of transformation. You can only change when you recognize what needs changing. You can only heal when you sit with your pain long enough to understand where it came from. And you can only find direction when you stop running long enough to see where you actually are. Silence gives you all of that. It opens a door inside you that you didn't even know existed. A door that leads to growth, to peace, to contentment. To your Lord, it is a strange thing, isn't it? To be in a room by yourself and still feel surrounded. To walk through life without companions and still feel guided. To be unseen by people and yet feel fully seen, fully loved, and fully cared for. This is not delusion. This is faith. This is the state of a believer who has built a connection with their Lord so strong, so intimate, that solitude becomes company and silence becomes dialogue. This is the reality of someone who knows that the Creator is closer than their own jugular vein. There are days when the world doesn't understand you, when the people you expected to be there are nowhere to be found, when your friends are busy, your family is distant, and no one seems to notice the storm you're carrying. And that is when your soul is tested. Will you break under the weight of loneliness, or will you rise with the strength of divine companionship? Because the one who created you is not far, he is not absent. He is not ignoring you, he is near, always near. And when you reach out to him, even with a whisper, he responds. We have been conditioned to think that companionship only exists with people, that love only exists in relationships. But divine companionship is not limited by time, space, or understanding. It's a companionship that speaks directly to the heart, that provides peace in the middle of